Bienvenue à tous pour la conférence de presse du film de Todd Haynes, Kэрol avec...
So, Todd Haynes, Kэрol, press conference, and Kate Blanchett, Rooney Mara. Enjoy.
Why isn't it sold out? But once they can sell more tickets to that. So, how'd you get it? How was the screening yesterday?
Yeah, how was the...
Oh, wow. That's fucking great. I don't know how you did it.
Wow.
These for our little ears?
That's
Sort of ears.
You got a little bubble. Do you like bubble? You want to try it?
While photographers are at it for an extra seconds, allow me to remind you of the routine. If you want to ask a question, please raise your hand a little bit ahead of time. And when you get the microphone, please stand up, introduce yourselves and your medium, and ask your question, then sit down and give the mic back. Lorsque vous aurez une question à poser, soyez assez gentil de lever la main un petit peu à l'avance, de façon à ce que nous puissions vous voir, de façon à ce qu'on vous passe le micro. Quand vous aurez le micro, levez-vous, présentez-vous, posez votre question, puis asseyez-vous et rendez le micro. D'avance, merci. Photographers, if you don't mind, we'll start the press conference. Sir, thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the press conference for Kэрol. And once is not la coutume, but I will introduce the people as they are seated at this table, and then I'll get back to them. At my far left, cinematographer Ed Lachman. Sitting next to him, two of the producers, Stephen Woolley and Christine Vachon. Sitting next to Christine Vachon, of course, you saw her on screen as Thérèse Bellevet, Miss Rooney Mara. Skip the guy in the middle, as Kэрol aired Kate Blanchett. Next to Kate Blanchett, one of the producers also, Elizabeth Carlson. And sitting next to me, the scriptwriter, Phyllis Nagy. The reason I went for this is that is very much a symbol or an image of, I'm sorry, and in the middle, the director, Todd Haynes. The reason I introduced everyone this way is I was afraid we might spend an entire day just going through the way those people are related. Kate Blanchett was directed by Todd Haynes, at least in I'm Not There, where she played Bob Dylan, which was an amazing performance. This lady has a lot to do with Patricia Highsmith, insofar as she wrote the script based on Kэрol, but she had also adapted for the English stage, The Talented Mr. Ripley, also written by Patricia Highsmith. So that was strange. Christine Vachon worked with Todd Haynes on Far From Heaven, Velvet Goldmine, Safe, just about everything that he did. Congratulations. Steve Woolley is well known to us as the guy who brought us, if I may put it that way, Neil Jordan. He did Mona Lisa's Smile, he did End of the Affair, he produced Crying Game, Interview with a Vampire, and somehow Elizabeth Carlson here also co-produced Crying Game. So I was getting completely lost. I thought I'd get that out of the way, and guys, I'm going to have you ask the questions. First question.
Good afternoon, Peter Howell from the Toronto Star over to your right. Congratulations on a very fine movie. I guess the question would be for Todd Haynes and also maybe for Kate and Rooney if you'd like to join in. I was curious, given that it's set in sort of the repressive 1950s of America, and things haven't changed a whole lot in how your country responds to sort of explicit sex scenes, are you at all worried about how the censors of the MPAA or the conservatives in the Academy might react to it? Or will you have to make any cuts?
No, it hasn't really come up in our process. I think my editor is somewhere he's at Cannes, Afonso Goncalves, who did a beautiful, beautiful job. But no, it really hasn't been a concern, and I don't think it will be. Harvey Weinstein is distributing the film in the United States and hasn't been concerned about it. So I think we'll just forge ahead and see what happens.
I'd like to ask a question to you all. I understand you wrote the script initially. Was it on spec or not? I have no idea. But at which point did the various producers come in? And what did you guys do, each of you specifically?
Phyllis and I had worked together on a previous film called Mrs. Harris, which I commissioned her to write. And at the time, she mentioned that she wanted to do Kэрol together. And it just took many years before the rights to the novel were free. And in 2011, I went to Zurich and closed a deal with the publisher Diogenes, who control the Highsmith estate. And then from that point, it went very quickly. I know Phyllis had been trying, I guess it was for 14 years, yes, I think, to get it made. 14 years. But once we hooked up, then Kate Blanchett came on board. My partner, Stephen Woolley, and I worked together. We had developed it. And Christine and I go back, I guess, 30 years now, as with Todd. And Christine and I were having a very casual work conversation about our various projects and the usual roller coaster ride of independent filmmaking. And I had said that we had lost a director who had had to leave because of scheduling conflicts. And she had said that she wasn't sure Todd's movie was going to go when they thought it was going to go. And then there was a very pregnant pause on the phone. And we don't know quite how, but a light bulb went off, and that light bulb was Todd. And Kate was obviously thrilled, and then Rooney came on board, and, you know, here we are, really. It's been an incredible, incredible experience.
Christine?
I don't really have too much more to add to that, except, you know, this was really the result of so many years of work and passion, especially by Elizabeth, to get it to where, you know, Todd and I could step in and help, you know, get it over the finish line. But it was quite a labor of love.
Steve?
No, I really have nothing more to say other than it's Mona Lisa, not Mona Lisa Smile.
I'm sorry.
It was in 1986, 29 years ago. So no, Elizabeth, everything that Christine said is true. I know that it's unusual for a producer to say that, and everything Elizabeth said was true. That much I can say. We just gave as much love and help as we possibly could because we love the script so much. It's such a beautiful piece of work. And the book is so gorgeous that we really wanted to try and make this film if we could. And we've known Todd and Christine personally for many, many, many years. We've been desperate to work with them. So it was like being part of one family. You know, it was just a fantastic experience for us to be all to finally work together after God knows how many years of almost working together. And Christine and Elizabeth made a terrific movie with Phyllis called Mrs. Harris. but it was shown in HBO in America, so we never really made a movie. So this was a great experience, and I just feel very, very privileged to be able to work with two such incredible actors and on such a great script and with such a phenomenal director. So it's been a real joy for me to just be associated with this project. It's been fantastic.
Question over there.
Hi, Jason Gorber from Cineplex and Twitch Film. This is a film of looks and silences and touches. Kate, you saved Middle-earth. Rooney, in Dragon Tattoo, you beat up James Bond. I'm just wondering if you could talk about the difference in performances between doing sort of the bigger roles and these beautiful, more subtle roles in terms of your actual craft as actors.
I don't know if I really can make a distinction between those two. I feel like I always, in anything I do, try and look for those more quiet moments. I feel like that's where a lot of the story is told, is when there's just silence or space between the words. So, I mean, certainly this film had a lot more of that, but I try and find that in anything that I do.
Okay.
But in answer to your question, is that better, Baz? Okay. I think it's a really complicated sort of neuro-linguistic process to make someone else's lines your own, and so I'm always very happy not to talk on film. But I think the challenge of playing a character that's derived from a Patricia Highsmith novel is they're so mysterious and ambiguous. And what was wonderful about what Phyllis did with making this into a film is that Kэрol is very much, well, almost a construct of Therese's imagination. She's very, it's all seen through Therese's, the prism of Therese's own interior turmoil. And Phyllis has really invented a whole world for Kэрol, so that was a gift. So I had sort of the elusive atmosphere of the novel, and then I had the beautifully chosen, almost haiku that Phyllis had created for Kэрol, so it was a gift.
Go ahead.
Hello, Kate. Hello. Hello, yes. Kate. This is Johnny from Bangladesh. My question is, what are your sources of acting inspiration?
What are my choices of acting expression?
What are your sources of acting inspiration?
How do I choose? Sorry, I don't think I quite understand.
What are your sources? What are your sources of acting inspiration? Sources.
Oh. So what? Oh Oh well, in this instance, working with Todd, and I really relish this on I'm Not There, is that Todd comes into the process, and often you don't have very long to rehearse, and we certainly didn't have much time to rehearse on this in film. He comes with these incredible mood boards, and just in the lead up, in the pre-production, he is so generous in allowing the actors to completely immerse themselves in the way the film is going to be shot, in the atmosphere that's going to be created on set. So you have a sense of what you don't have to do, what's going to be done around you, and so that's unbelievably helpful. Particularly being a theatre actor, you know, when you know what the mise en scène is, when you know what the frame is, it's much easier to know what energy to bring. So the female photographers, many of whom I didn't know their work, Vivian Meyer, for instance, was one of them, herself becoming a reflection within her own photography, her street photography, and obviously not being... her work not being known in her own lifetime, that was a complete revelation for me. So the visual references that Todd gave me were a huge source of inspiration in this particular instance.
Since we're talking about visuals, if I may meander toward Ed Luckman, you've worked with Todd Haynes, Ed, on Mildred Pierce for television, on I'm Not There, and on Far From Heaven. You had, in this particular instance, to recreate the 1950s. How did you guys go about it in terms of lighting, in terms of attitude, in terms of sets?
Well, Todd didn't want to do a Circean world, of a heightened reality of a world of artifice. He wanted to explore further what we had done in Mildred Pierce, where there was kind of a soiled, naturalistic look to the world, that we were documenting a world, but not through cinema, but through life. And so, you know, he gave me those touchstones, too, of like mid-century photographers like Vivian Marr, and also that he changed the part for that character where she was a set designer, and now she became a photographer, and what a beautiful metaphor for me, and to explore her world through how she develops as a person and through her love for this other person. So,
Todd, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, Kate and Ed have both really, talked a lot about the sources we were looking at, and I did look at film. I always sort of start by looking at other films for ideas and points of entry into how a story might be told. And in this case, I think it was more about, because of the Patricia Highsmith original novel and how Phyllis had opened it up, but how we began our conversations together really talking about point of view, and how sometimes the most affecting experiences in film, when you're talking about stories of love, are rooted in a character's point of view. And what's so interesting about Kэрol is that, and this is less true in the novel than I think in the script and in the film, it begins rooted in Therese's point of view, but there's a movement that happens throughout the course of the story, and you come full circle, and end up in the point of view of Kэрol. So you're always in the point of view of the more amorous party and the one who's sort of disempowered in some level. And the more powerful figure in every conceivable way is certainly Kэрol through the story. But because of events that occur and because of the battery that life inflicts on all of us, Therese changes a lot. And so the two women at the end of the film are very different from the two women at the beginning. And so that point of view shift, and we also, for those who know and love the film Brief Encounter, it was sort of an interesting way to mark that change of point of view from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie, where that scene is repeated, but you're coming at it from the other side in Kэрol, similarly to how they David Lean did it in Brief Encounter.
Question, sir.
Hi, Vincent Dowd, BBC World Service Radio. Good afternoon. A question initially for Kate, and then anybody who wants to pick it up. I know this has been discussed a lot at Cannes this year. We're faced with a panel which is majority female. That's still relatively unusual here at Cannes and in the industry generally. So, for Kate, have things improved in terms of both the roles which women generally are being offered, and more generally, especially in terms of producers, are things getting better in that direction, in there being more of a balance?
Well, it's certainly, I think it needs to be very much front and centre of the conversation. There was an article in the International New York Times saying it was the year of the La Femme, and you hope it's not the year, that it's not some sort of fashionable moment, but the more rich and diverse the stories are, the better it serves audiences, both male and female. And the wonderful thing about this book, and I think Patricia Highsmith's writing generally, is that you have both male and female perspectives sort of melded and meshed, and so it's, yes, there's two women at the centre of it, but it's not a niche experience. So yeah, I think it's important to keep talking about it. I think it fell off the agenda, and I think we lost a lot of ground. But it's wonderful to be working with female producers who are wanting to make great, intelligent, entertaining films. I mean, that's what everyone wants to make, isn't it?
Question here.
Hi, good afternoon, Baz Mammy Boy from Daily Mail. Congratulations. I want to ask the film's leading artists, Kate and Rooney. The film concerns a love that in 1952-53 was considered criminal. Talk to me about what has changed in that time. I mean, it's still, the Supreme Court is still debating whether the love between same-sex couples is legal or not, for heaven's sake. So talk to me about how time has changed and how you both work together. It's a great movie, by the way.
Well, there's over 70 countries around the world in which homosexuality is still illegal. So you you wonder, yes, well, we're talking about it, but it still seems to be an issue. I think the interesting thing about this is, and certainly about playing a character like Kэрol, is her sexuality is a private affair. And I think what often happens these days is you're meant to, you know, if you are, are not homosexual, you're meant to be able to, or if you are homosexual, you have to talk about it constantly. It has to be the only thing that you have to put before your work, before any other aspects of your personality. But I don't know if that answers your question. No. Was I avoiding it, perhaps? But there's still many, many countries around the world where it's still illegal. So it's, we're living in deeply conservative times, and if we think otherwise, then we're very foolish.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, certainly in my country, in America, where the film takes place, I mean, there's been great progress made from when this story takes place, but like Kate said, I think we'd be foolish to think that it ends there. I mean, that's not the case everywhere in the world, and we still have a lot of headway to make. We still have a long way to go before we're not talking about it.
I can jump in and maybe
Make
answer
sense?
Well, a sort of different point, which is that nothing has changed and everything has changed because we can have this movie now. One of the things that I would personally hope for is that it starts the kinds of discussions that we need to have about this issue. And part of the way it does this, and everyone has realized this beautifully, from Todd to Kate and Rooney and the producers and Ed and everyone involved, we politicize the material by just allowing people to live their lives honestly. And I think this speaks to what Kate was what she was talking about when she said, we are expected to make it an issue that is front and center in our lives every time we talk about it. But actually, when you live your life, your identity is front and center. But it's something that we're not often treated to seeing in films or art. So that is, I think, what is a huge political statement right there. And we hope, at least I hope, it has some rippling effects eventually.
Who had?
Hi, Rodrigo Fonseca, TV Globo Brazil. Question to Mr. Todd Haynes. Could you tell us a few words about your work with Afonso Gonçalves, your editor, the importance of Gonçalves to the film, and if you could also say a few words about the soundtrack, that's amazing. Congratulations for the film.
Thank you. I worked first with Fonzie on Mildred Pierce, and it was just an immediate meeting of minds for me. It was just a great, great creative collaboration. And I knew it was just the beginning for both of us, and I hoped he felt the same way. So this was just a beautiful opportunity to make a feature film together for the first time. We had, it's always a whittling down process. We had more than is in the film. We had to give up things that you love, which is part of what all editing is about. You have to look at the whole experience, and that ultimately is what wins out in the end. But he's just an incredibly thoughtful, incredibly skilled. That montage, for people who've seen the film, going into the tunnel, which is one of the most beautiful parts of the film, and really conveys the sort of delirium of early love, he knew what I was looking for, but that was Fonzie. On his own. He really did such a magnificent job. And then the soundtrack. I've worked with Carter Burwell. The first time I worked with Carter was with additional music for Velvet Goldmine, which is largely comprised of popular music from the early 70s, but he did additional score for that film. I've always loved his music and the scores he did for the Coen brothers, among many, many other great directors. And he did just a spectacular job also on Mildred Pierce. So I had to, invite him into this process again, and I just think he did one of the. I just love you guys haven't heard it yet. I'm so excited for you to hear the score. It's a real important part of the storytelling. So it was a great privilege to work with Carter again.
Oh, sorry. Hello, my name is Inger Merete Hobbelstad. I come from Norwegian newspaper Dagbladet. Congratulations on a very elegant and intimate movie. I have a question for Cate Blanchett. I think you said in an interview that you'd read up on 50s erotic novels to prepare for the part. Can you talk a little bit about what these books were like and how they informed you when you shaped this character? And also, I'd just like to pick up something you said earlier about being seen through Therese's eyes. Do we, in a way, invent the people we fall in love with? And is this something you can relate to? That was long, but I hope you can answer it. Thank you.
Yeah, yes. Well, part of the joys of acting is the research. And the unique thing about this very personal, intimate novel that Patricia Highsmith wrote under a pseudonym was that it was the first sort of lesbian story that had a happy ending. And so I read many, many that did not, that were very much sort of outsider novels. And I think it was really important to remember, particularly living in the day and age that we're living in now, that was not the case then. And also, that wasn't a world in which Kэрol herself existed. I don't think she was a card-carrying member of any sexual persuasion. And that's also important to remember, is that those labels, those environments, those groups, the comfort of them, those communities didn't exist for many, many people in that period. And so the isolation, the resultant isolation, I think, was very important for me to gather, which I got from the films. And yes, in answer to your question, I think deep connection with people happens to you. It's not something that you construct. But as I said before, I think what Phyllis's exquisite script did was it fleshed out and made three-dimensional the character of Kэрol.
Question over there.
Hello, it's Catherine Shord from The Guardian. I just wondered if any of the panel had an idea of why it might be that Hollywood seemed less eager to tackle lesbian romances than those between two men.
I can't actually remember that many of films made about love between two men either, actually.
Yeah. I feel like there's actually more.
About women? Yeah. Because male audiences will not be excluded as conventional wisdom goes, who are the prime target of the Hollywood configuration of who you're marketing your film for.
I thought it was 13-year-old boys, but I don't think my 13-year-old son will be seeing.
Same difference, maybe. Yeah.
Question over there.
Roberto Schinardi, gay.it, Italy. Thank you for this beautiful and well-crafted movie. I have to ask to Mrs. Blanchett. Thank you for your vibrant interpretation. You say that sexuality is a private thing, but you know how much important for young gay people the words you say. I would like to ask, you declare to Variety you loved women many times in your private life. I would like to ask you, these loves were openly loved, and how much inspired you personally to build the wonderful character of Kэрol? Thank you so much.
From memory, the conversation ran, have you had relationships with women? And I said, yes, many times. If you mean I've had sexual relationships with women, the answer is no. But that obviously didn't make it to print. But really... but in 2015, the point should be, who cares? I mean, call me old-fashioned, but I thought that one's job as an actor was not to present one's boring, small, microscopic universe, but to raise and expand your sense of the world and make a psychological and empathetic connection to another character's experience so that you can present something other than your own world to an audience. My own life is of no interest to anyone else. Well, maybe it is, I don't know. But I'm certainly not interested in putting my own thoughts and opinions up there. Why I want to be an actor, why I love being an actor, is what you referred to before. It's the research, it's finding out other people's experience and making that beautiful and tangible to an audience, and in the hope that it will communicate something. But yes, it's important to talk about it. But yes. Oh, anyway.
Question over there.
This is Iqbal, Daily Pratham Alo, Bangladesh. Hello, Kat. Welcome to Cannes Film Festival again. Last year you came with a children's movie. Now this time you are here
with another children's movie.
It was the Dragons, How to Train a Dragon, and somebody stopped me that's why, it's a children's movie. You have to talk less. But this time it's a lesbian romance, so...
I have to talk more?
So you think you're looking elegant and sophisticated and gorgeous
right
as
now?
usual. So you think it's difficult to remain gorgeous and elegant after doing all the things in the night, in the film actually. You know what?
You mean when we're shooting at night?
Yeah, I mean the special scenes in the...
You mean at the age that I am? Or
yeah.
It was easier for Rooney? Is that what... Yes, it was easier for Rooney,
yeah,
but, it didn't come between us.
Yeah, is it difficult to remain elegant and sophisticated and after this?
No.
Question here. Go ahead.
Hi, Ms. Blanchett.
He's over there.
I'm over there. Hi, Robert from Netherlands.
Hi.
About 2 years ago, you announced a project you were going to direct, novel The Dinner by Herman Koch, our Dutch writer.
Mm-hmm.
What's the status of that project right now?
I believe Oren Movement was writing a script. I love Oren. I'm the mother of 4 children whose husband's running a theatre company in Australia, so my time is not necessarily my own. I love the project, and I hope to be involved in some capacity with it.
But it's still in progress?
I believe so, yes.
Thanks very much.
Ma'am?
A question about...
Same here. Okay. This side.
A question about aesthetics for Todd Haynes and for Ed Lachman is... I really appreciated the purity of the film and the tempo and I was wondering about the choice of making, again, a period piece, not just for the political reason, but the aesthetics of the period. There are no cell phones going off, there are no textos. It allows for this very pure, the payphone. I was wondering if you could speak on your aesthetics and your choice of the period piece and also the purity of these images and sounds.
Yeah, I think as Ed already started to discuss, it was really a great challenge and exciting for us to venture into this very specific part of the 1950s, the very beginning of the 1950s, which is almost more about the 40s and the post-war sort of after effect of a distressed nation, of a dirty city, of a whole culture starting to sort of clench under the forces of the Cold War, sort of in a deep freeze. And what we just kept seeing in the photojournalism and documentation that we were talking about by Vivian Maier, by Ruth Orkin, by Esther Bublé, by Helen Levitt, as well as Saul Leiter, who is now mentioned by every other director on every other film. But we started to look at his work on Mildred Pierce. That sense of a murky and maybe also a morally murky time and place. And I think that started to breed all kinds of ideas about how it would look, what it would look like, how shooting through windows and glass and reflections, kind of kept making you think about the act of looking and being looked at, because it's sort of revealing, the original glass, the lens, in ways that we're not supposed to notice. But you feel the texture of it, you feel the fingerprints on it, you feel the choice of an optical experience, and one that's about positioning people on either side of that optical experience.
Ed, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, the only other thing I like to mention is the choice that we still work in film. And we chose to shoot Super 16, and it wasn't just on a budgetary level, but that we referenced like the grain structure of the way film looks and feels, and that it has an emotional quality to it that you can't get digitally. And so that was another aspect. And also for me, the way colors are rendered in a negative are different than the way they are digitally. So that, we struggled to, it's even hard to find a loader, that's a position on a film crew where people are coming up learning their craft. So it's very hard to even find someone that can load film magazines, because now they're in the digital world. So trying to hold on to film, and maybe, another project Todd will do that he doesn't want to shoot on film, but I think reference that world very well.
I should also just do a little plug to Cincinnati, where we shot Kэрol, and we really had a great experience there. And the local talent, the day players we worked with in Cincinnati, clearly the architecture and the setting, which was the first incentive for going there, but the extras, we worked with non-union extras in Cincinnati, and they bring such life and reality to the frames of the film that it was a real pleasure to work there.
Yeah. Question over here.
Ed Gibbs from ABC News. Congratulations on the film to you all. Question for Kate Blanchett. There's the inevitable love scene, which is very tastefully handled in the film, and a certain amount of nudity. And I wondered how comfortable you were in that environment, in that situation, and whether your sort of feelings towards nudity have changed in any way.
Certainly since giving birth. I mean, a lot of strangers see you naked in that experience. No more so than if it was a love scene with a man. I mean, I think I have such respect and admiration for Rooney, and it was quite hilarious, actually, in a lot of ways. So, you mean changed because of doing it, or I think it's always great when it's not for titillating reasons. It was a really, really important scene in the structure of the film, in the telling of the story, and Todd was fantastic at really explaining, how it was going to be shot, and so it was a scene like any other scene. But yes, there was a bit of apprehension going in, but not because it was between two women in any in any way.
Miss Mara, anything you want to add?
I'm nude quite often, so it wasn't a big deal for me, but it was nice. I don't know.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Hi, Travolta Cooper, Temple Networks, USA and the Caribbean. Congratulations, Mr. Haynes. This is one of the best films of the year. My question is for Ms. Vachon and Ms. Blanchett. Ms. Vachon, you're a personal hero of mine. I've read all your books. I've read your first book, Shooting to Kill, continues to be an inspiration to me. You were quoted most recently saying that you've omitted the term filmmaker altogether. You'd rather just say storytellers. I'd like for you to expound on that some more. And Ms. Blanchett, listening to you now and listening to you in previous interviews, you kind of sound a lot like a filmmaker. Are we going to expect more behind-the-camera work from you, like director, filmmaker, storyteller? Thank you.
That is something that I've started to say a lot, to just address the fact that there are so many different kinds of platforms now and so many different ways to tell stories that I want to start training my brain not to limit myself when I'm talking about the stories that I want to tell, to not just limit myself to theatrical feature-length films, which of course I love making, but there's all different kinds of stories and different ways to see them.
I think when you work with Todd Haynes and David Fincher and Martin Scorsese, and you have to be really clear about the steps that you take. If you were to move into directing, I've directed on stage several times, and I wonder whether that sense of perspective or that attraction to the whole project is perhaps just the way I approach acting, rather than necessarily because I'm a director. But if the right thing came along, and with the right people, because it's a collaborative medium, and it was very much Todd's vision, of course, but he's uber collaborative, and and so you do pick up a lot of. A lot of ideas and tips when you work with people like Todd.
We had this time that we didn't have when I'm not there on Kэрol that was so pleasurable and so essential, I think, almost from a dramaturgical level, about really talking out the script and the fine-tuning of the script, that Kate was so extraordinarily insightful and clear-sighted. And
I
so
need a good PA. I think I should be your PA.
It was an amazing part of the prep process that I relied tremendously on Kate, and it was great.
Over there.
Hello.
Yes.
Natalia Barbican from Cinemaholics. My question is for Kate Blanchett. You a movie actress, and a theatre actor. You do both, basically. My question is, do you use different techniques to approach your acting in theatre and movies? And also, does the fact that you play in the films affect your theatre performance and vice versa?
I think definitely, when you work in large auditoriums, playing to 2,000 people, you have a sense of the wide shot. I've learned more about how to fill a wide shot. And likewise, when you work in those big spaces, having known the intimacy of a close-up. I mean, it sounds really banal, but it's you're better able to serve those intimate moments in large spaces in the theatre. So I think for me personally, the two forms definitely feed and expand your work in both mediums. But there's something about the theatrical rhythm that I love. You go deeply into rehearsal process, week 3, the whole thing falls apart, and then you have to rebuild it, in a way to go back to the impulses that you all had in the first reading, but with, more informed. And you get to go out and try and repair the damage you've done night after night after night. So by the end of the run, you feel like if it's been well rehearsed, the thing has grown. And the thing in film is that you've got to capture that moment that you get in the rehearsal room, the moment of connection. And so there's always a terror, I think, when you work on film, that's not going to happen. And I don't know about you, Rennie, but I always get to the end of the film on the last day of shooting and I go, shit, that's what it was about. That's how I should have done it. So moments like this, at a festival like Cannes, it's very nerve-wracking because you're sitting in opening, it's like a nightmare. You're in the audience on opening night watching yourself and there's nothing you can do about it.
On that note, I'm afraid our time is up. Thank you very much for being here.